Have you ever wondered if love can transcend the boundaries of species? If loyalty is a feeling that blossoms not only between humans, but in an even pure, wilder form between a man and nature? Get ready, because what you're about to hear goes far beyond a simple animal story. We're talking about a bond so profound it defies logic itself, capable of bringing tears to your eyes, and yes, changing your view on animals forever. Imagine the vastness of South Africa with a scent of dry earth mixes with the aroma of acacias, and the distant roar of a lion is part of the daily melody. It's in this grand setting that the life of a solitary man intertwines with the destiny of a creature few would dare to even approach. He saved a helpless cub, a tiny king of the jungle on the brink of death. But what happened years later surprised the whole world and became a whispered legend among rangers. Can you believe that? How could an act of kindness generate such a strong human-animal connection that not even death could break? Who hasn't felt that an animal truly understands your soul, right? We're going to tell you how this interspecies friendship blossomed and what it teaches us about the true nature of bond. If this story has already captured your heart, go ahead and leave a like and subscribe so you don't miss any of our emotional narratives. Now, to understand this animal loyalty that transcends time, we need to go back and meet the man at the center of it all. Who was this silent guardian of nature? Mr. Raymond's life wasn't a movie script. It was an ode to silent dedication. Imagine spending 30 long years in a vast South African reserve, where the sound of wind whispering through tall grasses was his lullaby and the scent of dry earth, warmed by the relentless sun, was his daily perfume. 3 decades. Can you picture that? He was a forest ranger by soul and heart, a true sentinel of nature, far from the city bustle and the trivialities of everyday life. For him, every sunrise gilding the savannah was a new purpose, and every footprint in the dust a story to be. Reed. Raymond wasn't a man of many words. His face, weathered by sun and time, carried the wisdom of someone who had seen it all: the majesty of elephants, the speed of cheetahs, and the daily struggle for survival. He lived in a small, rustic cabin, where the only sound at night was crickets and, sometimes, the distant call of a predator, a wild symphony few would understand, but for him, it was home. Did you know that a lion's life, for instance, is full of relentless challenges, and that cub mortality rates are incredibly high? Well, every living animal was a small victory for Mr. Raymond. His routine was simplicity in its purest form: long patrols under the scorching sun, wildlife observation, fighting poaching, and caring for the flora and fauna. Who among us doesn't seek a purpose that makes us feel alive, right? Raymond found his in tireless protection. He had no family nearby, no friends for a casual coffee, but his connection with animals and the land was deep, almost spiritual. He talked to the trees, to the rivers, and yes, to the creatures, as if they were his old confidants. This kind of bond is rare, a lesson that solitude doesn't have to be empty, but can be filled with a greater meaning. Raymond's life was a predictable cycle of dedication and solitude. But destiny, destiny loves to play tricks and change everything in the blink of an eye. Even in the heart of the savannah, where every day seemed a repetition of the last, something completely unexpected was about to cross the old ranger's path, something that would break the monotony and redefine forever the meaning of his existence. Have you ever felt that premonition that something big was about to happen, even in the most mundane situations? The universe was preparing to introduce Mr. Raymond to his greatest challenge, and his deepest interspecies friendship. It was another hot day on the savannah, the sun beating down mercilessly, when Mr. Raymond heard something different. It wasn't the wind, nor the cry of an antelope calf. It came from afar, a faint lament, almost a whisper that the dry air could barely carry. His forest ranger instinct, honed by years of keen listening, alerted him. Following the sound, which grew clearer, a desperate whimper of something very young and in distress, he pushed through the low vegetation. And what he found, oh, can you believe it? It was heartbreaking Dot in the middle of the yellowish grass. Under the thin shade of an acacia lay a lion cub. He was tiny, with still sparse mane, and one of his hind legs was severely injured, swollen, and with the metallic scent of dried blood. He was abandoned. Yes, you heard that right. In a kingdom where the pride is life and protecting cubs is law, that small creature had been left behind, likely because he couldn't keep up with the group. It's a sad fact of nature. Prides can abandon weaker members so as not to jeopardize the survival of the whole. Can you imagine the scene? A miniature king, a lone and vulnerable Dot, who among us doesn't feel a pang in their heart upon seeing an animal suffer? Mr. Raymond, with all his experience and the pragmatism of wildlife, didn't hesitate. He knew the risk, of course. A lion, even a cub, is a wild animal. But compassion spoke louder. With all the tenderness a solitary man could muster, he approached cautiously, feeling the warm air vibrate around him. The little lion didn't roar. He just looked at him with watery eyes, a silent plea for help. It was there that the human animal connection began to form. In a pure act of rescue, Raymond carefully picked up the cub, feeling the rough, dusty fur against his hands. He took him back to his cabin, improvising a stretcher and a care plan. It was a completely unusual situation. He, a man made to protect wildlife in its natural habitat, now found himself as a foster father to a predator. Would you, in his place, have the courage to act like that, to welcome a future lion into your home? The task would be arduous, full of challenges and sleepless nights. But something about that little lion, whom he affectionately named Barrow, told him it would all be worth it. And it was just the beginning of an animal loyalty the world would yet witness. Caring for an injured lion cub isn't like caring for a kitten, you know. Barrow was, after all, a future predator, even if at that stage he seemed like an awkward feline with a sore paw. Mr. Raymond dedicated every free minute to the little one, treating his wound with a patience that would surprise anyone. He cleaned the injury, applied the herbs he knew from nature, and observed every sign of improvement. Late into the nights, the forest ranger would listen to Barrow's heavy breathing and the faint scent of antiseptic mixed with the cub's wild perfume. There was no more solitude in that small cabin. Now there was purpose, concern, and a nascent human-animal connection. Dot, as Barrow's paw healed, the bond between them blossomed in a way many humans never experience. Raymond talked to the lion, told him stories of the savannah, and even sang old songs while stroking his mane, which was beginning to thicken. The little lion responded with deep purrs that vibrated in the man's chest and with playful nips that he allowed. It was a delicate dance of mutual trust. Have you ever felt that almost telepathic connection with an animal, where it seems to understand every word, every emotion? With Raymond and Barrow, it was exactly like that. It was an interspecies friendship that needed no words, only presence and affection. Here's a fascinating curiosity. Although most wild lions avoid prolonged human contact, they are social animals within their prides and can form incredibly strong bonds. In Barrow's case, Raymond became his pride. He learned the lion's quirks, the way he asked for food with a gentle head nudge, or how he snuggled up to sleep like a giant cat. A lesson we can take from this is that compassion and dedication can break down seemingly insurmountable barriers. Who would have thought that a forest ranger and a lion would have such a strong bond? Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Barrow grew visibly, gaining strength and majesty. The animal loyalty he held for Raymond was palpable. He followed him everywhere, waited for him at the cabin door, and even defended the property from smaller intruders. But as much as Mr. Raymond's heart filled with joy from this companionship, he knew that Barrow's true home was not a ranger's cabin. The lion's future was in the wild nature, among his own kind. The time for a difficult decision was approaching, and the question hanging in the air was, how do you say goodbye to such a special friend, knowing he needed to be free? The day arrived. The sun rose, painting the African sky in shades of fire and gold, and the morning air carried the dewy scent of wet grass. Barrow was big, strong, and magnificent. His muscles stood out under his shiny coat, and his roar once. A cub's lament was now a deep call, an invitation from the wild nature. Mr. Raymond knew it was time. The goal of all of Barrow's rescue and care was to return the lion to his true home, where he should lead and thrive among his own. It's a painful lesson, isn't it? Knowing that loving also means knowing when to let go, even if it hurts your soul. Together, they made the last walk to a remote area of the reserve, a spot where the wildlife was untouched. The silence was broken only by the faint rustle of dry leaves under the forest, rangers' feet, and the majestic stride of the lion beside him. With each step, Raymond's heart tightened. He saw freedom in Barrow's eyes, a wild glint he had helped reignite. It's a remarkable fact that, for wild animals, the success of rehabilitation and release largely depends on their ability to regain their natural instincts, and Barrow seemed ready. That was the culmination of his rehabilitation. Can you imagine the weight of that moment? Mr. Raymond stopped. Barrow did too. For a moment that seemed to last an eternity, their gazes met. There was no more injured paw, no more fragility of an abandoned cub. There stood a king, ready to reclaim his throne in the savannah. Who among us hasn't had to give up something they love so that it could truly fly free? It was a silent farewell, with no visible tears, but with a palpable sense of loss in the air for the ranger. He gave one last stroke to the lion's head, feeling the familiar roughness of his mane under his hand. A touch of goodbye. Barrow turned, and, without looking back, disappeared among the trees, moving with the agility and strength that nature had granted him. Mr. Raymond stood there alone, listening to the silence Barrow had left behind. The sense of emptiness was immense, but mixed with an indescribable pride for having fulfilled his mission. The bond was established, and he had helped Barrow live. But deep down, a troubling question echoed. Would that be the end of the most improbable interspecies friendship in South Africa? Would he ever see his friend again? The universe, in its wisdom, was just beginning to unfold the most surprising chapters of this incredible story of animal loyalty. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. Mr. Raymond had returned to his solitary routine, but Barrow's absence left a different silence in the cabin, an emptiness that not even the symphony of nature could fill. He missed that lion, of course, but he knew he had done the right thing. And then it happened. One sunny afternoon, while Raymond was sitting outside the forest ranger station, the air vibrated with a different sound. It wasn't a hunting roar or a warning, but a low rumble, almost a call. He looked up, and what he saw, can you imagine? The surprise? There he was, Barrow, more majestic than ever, with his denser mane and a gleam in his eyes that Mr. Raymond recognized instantly. He stood there, at a respectful distance, the sun glinting on his golden fur. There was no threat, just an imposing and familiar presence. Raymond's heart leaped in his chest. It's an extraordinary fact. Wild lions, once released, rarely maintain contact with humans, driven by instinct and the need for survival. But Barrow was different. He had an animal loyalty that defied all rules. Who hasn't had a friend who, no matter the distance or time, always finds a way to come back? Barrow's visits became a phenomenon. They weren't daily, but periodic, as if the lion had an invisible calendar in his wild mind. He would appear, stay for a while, allow Mr. Raymond to approach, and even a cautious caress on his head, feeling the familiar roughness of his mane, and then leave as silently as he had arrived. It was living proof of that human-animal connection that had been born during the rescue. Raymond would run his fingers through Barrow's rough fur, feeling every muscle beneath the skin. These visits were proof that the bond was unbreakable. These encounters were more than visits. They were silent conversations between souls who understood each other. Raymond would talk about his day, the news of the reserve, and Barrow seemed to listen, his eyes fixed on his human friend. It was a constant reminder that true love and dedication are never in vain. It's a valuable lesson for us, persistence, and the demonstration of affection can create bonds that overcome any barrier. But as much as these visits were a balm for Mr. Raymond's soul, life, like nature itself, is made of cycles. The old forest ranger's health, unfortunately, would not follow the same unwavering rhythm of their interspecies friendship. And what would happen when time began to weigh heavily on him? Mr. Raymond's last day dawned. The African sun, which he loved so much, cast its golden rays over the cabin, but the energy it brought did not reach the old forest ranger. He was weak, his breathing shallow, and the loss of his life seemed imminent. The few caregivers with him knew it was a matter of hours. The atmosphere in the small station was one of heavy silence, broken only by the occasional song of a distant bird or the faint whisper of the breeze carrying the scent of dewy earth. Grief was already felt before his last breath, and then it happened, almost like a miracle, a sign from the universe that no one expected. A low rumble, a familiar sound that made everyone's hearts in the cabin tighten. Barrow, the lion, was there, standing majestically in the distance, his eyes fixed on the cabin of the man who had saved him. Can you imagine the scene? It was as if Barrow's animal instinct, his deep animal loyalty, had sensed his friend's final call, crossing miles of savanna to be present. Many accounts and studies show animals' incredible intuition about the health and well-being of their humans. For Barrow, this connection was palpable. With a strength no one knew he possessed, Mr. Raymond asked to be taken outside so he could see his friend one last time. And there, on the porch of the small cabin, under the same sun that illuminated his life and his interspecies friendship, they met. Barrow approached, not like a wild predator, but with the tenderness of an old companion. He rested his large head near the man's fragile face, and a deep purr, vibrating in the air, echoed in the savanna's silence. Raymond, with the last thread of his strength, reached out to touch his lion's mane, feeling the familiar roughness of his fur dot. It was a wordless goodbye, but filled with all the love and bond they had built over the years. Barrow remained there, his imposing presence offering comfort until the very last moment. Mr. Raymond passed away, his eyes closed forever, with the unmistakable scent of his lion and the warmth of the nature he so loved. Who among us wouldn't wish for such a meaningful farewell, in the presence of someone who truly understands us? It was a testament that true love has no barriers and transcends even the boundary between life and death. But Barrow's story doesn't end here. What would a lion do after the loss of his only human friend? Mr. Raymond was buried right there, in the vast nature he loved and protected so much, under a sturdy tree from where he could, symbolically, continue to watch over his reserve. The funeral day was marked by a reverent silence, which only the vastness of the savanna can offer. But the love story between him and Barrow did not end with the forest ranger's death. In fact, it was from that moment on that their human-animal connection transformed into a legend, a true testament to a bond that defies human comprehension. Week after week, something extraordinary began to happen. Like a golden ghost emerging from the tall grass, Barrow would appear, not to hunt, not to fight, but to visit his friend's resting place. Have you ever seen something like this? The lion would approach the grave, the same spot where Mr. Raymond had been buried, and stay there for hours, lying in silence. Sometimes the afternoon sun would shine on his mane, and he looked like a stone guardian, watching over the eternal sleep of the one who once saved him. It's a surprising fact that many animals, especially highly social ones like felines and elephants, exhibit behaviors resembling grief, returning to the locations of their loved ones. Barrow's presence at Mr. Raymond's grave became a sacred ritual, a living reminder of the purest interspecies friendship ever heard of. It was as if, even after the loss, he was still there to fulfill his part in the bond. One could feel the scent of dewy earth, and the respectful silence Barrow maintained was almost palpable, a silent testament to his love. Who among us doesn't miss a friend who has passed and seeks ways to keep their memory alive? The lion's visit was the deepest form of honor. This continuous animal loyalty from Barrow teaches us a powerful lesson. True love knows no bounds, not even death. It shows us that emotional memory is an indestructible link, and that the impact we have on someone's life, whether human or animal, can echo for all eternity. Raymond may have passed physically, but his presence and the love he planted continued to live in his lion's heart. The story of Barrow and Raymond is not just an anecdote. It's a mirror reflecting the best of nature and spirit, proving that a rescue can lead to a connection beyond life. And with this lesson, this incredible journey of loyalty brings us to the end of this chronicle. The story of Mr. Raymond and Barrow is not just a sequence of events. It's a living chronicle of the soul, a powerful echo of true animal loyalty that transcends the boundaries of what we consider possible. It makes us think about what truly matters in life, the depth of the bonds we create, the ability to give and receive love without asking for anything in return, and the resilience of spirit, whether human or wild. After all, who would have thought that a forest ranger and a lion could teach us so much about the essence of interspecies friendship? From the rescue of that injured cub to the silent visits to the grave, Barrow and Raymond showed us that the human-animal connection can be stronger than death itself. It's a lesson that nature holds its own secrets to reveal to us, if only we have the courage to listen and the open heart to feel. In a world where loss and grief are inevitable, their story reminds us that the love we give and receive remains, an inextinguishable flame that lights the way. Mr. Raymond may have passed, but his legacy of compassion and Barrow's unwavering loyalty will live forever in each of us who heard this story. And you, have you ever had an animal that profoundly changed your life? That taught you something about love, about loyalty, or about overcoming challenges? That story you keep in your heart that reminds you that true friendship has no limits? Tell us in the comments. Your experience can inspire many others. We love reading your narratives and seeing how animals touch your lives. If this story warmed your heart and made you believe even more in the power of the bonds we create, know that YouTube has more videos like this ready to move you. Don't forget to leave a like to show you appreciate these chronicles, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any of our next inspiring stories. The next video suggested by YouTube will touch you even deeper. Don't miss it. Until the next chronicle,